Humanity abandoned us. Ooh, that's an interesting line. That's a super interesting line. Okay, so in Marvel Comics, as I said before in my previous video, there are different levels to gods. So at the top, you could probably put the one above all. Now, right below the one above all, you could also put the Living Tribunal, since the Living Tribunal oversees the day-to-day management of essentially the entire Marvel universe slash multiverse. Now, where things start to get complicated is when you jump below the Living Tribunal, because let's say you have the Asgardians. In all intents and purposes, the Asgardians are not gods. Thor himself has said on multiple occasions that the Asgardians are just a wildly advanced alien race, that certain members of their race wield cosmic slash celestial powers and ended up being worshipped as gods when they arrived on Earth. Odin, chief among them. When you go below the Asgardians, what you run into is a myriad of different pantheons spread out across the entire universe. Every single planet, every single culture has a pantheon of gods that is completely different from the next planet over. Like the gods that are worshipped on the Kree homeworld are going to be completely different from the gods that are worshipped on, let's say, Nova Prime. Now, on Earth, our pantheon of gods exists inside of the Celestial Heliopolis, which is a giant celestial city that exists in a adjacent bubble to Earth. Basically exists in the void right next to our own dimension. Now, these gods are the traditional gods that you would expect. You would have Greek gods, Roman gods, Egyptian gods, Aztec gods, Native American gods, Chinese gods, Indian gods, Japanese gods, Filipino gods. You'd have gods from the beginning of creation that didn't exactly have a name but would govern over certain aspects of the earth, like rain, harvest, love, wine, music, joy, those type of things. When it comes in regards to those gods, what you see is there are different ages, where there's the prehistoric age where, like I said, there were simple gods. Then as you traverse forward, you would have the age of the old gods into the age of the new gods into the age of the current gods. Each and every one of them completely different. The prehistoric gods didn't have a name or designation. They just had power over certain things. So when they came into being, they created their own names. You move into a completely different age, or let's say the Bronze Age, you would have ancient Greek gods. You would also have Egyptian gods and Roman gods. Then you would jump from that into, let's say, an era of new gods, which were relatively recent gods, but not that recent gods. And then you would have the current age of gods, which would be gods that are around, which is hilarious that the TV show New Gods kind of nailed this. Technology, money, new religious concepts, things along those lines. What the Egyptian gods mean when they say that basically humanity abandoned us is essentially that worship moved on. Now, how to break this down? I think the easiest way to break this down is to basically say that Jesus Christ exists in the MCU. He's a dude. Well, he's not a dude, but you get what I'm saying. Above Jesus would be God or Yahweh. Here's the thing. Yahweh is not the one above all. So the one above all is the God of the entire Marvel universe. There's only one of him across the entirety of the multiverse. Yahweh is a God that is essentially only exists on the Earth pantheon. You will never see him on the pantheon for, like I said, the Kree or for the Nova. He doesn't show up there because he's not a concept in their religion. They would have their equivalent to Yahweh on their own pantheon. Essentially what you see is the guy is right. Humanity did abandon the gods because they stopped worshiping them. For a lot of these gods, they need worship. It's kind of like fuel, power. The more worshippers they have, the more sacrifices that they have, the more things that people do in their name, the more and more powerful they become. As they become forgotten, their power starts to dwindle until they more or less reach their base setting. I'm going to explain this in Dragon Ball Z terms because it's the only thing that's popping into my mind right now. Let's take Goku, right? You're a god, you're born, you're Goku. You are base Goku. Eventually, you have, let's say, a village of people that worship you. You go from base Goku to Super Saiyan 1 Goku. Then it goes from a village of people that worship you to a city state of people that worship you. You go from Super Saiyan 1 Goku to Super Saiyan 2 Goku. Then you go from a city state of people to a nation of people. You go from Super Saiyan 2 to Super Saiyan 3. Now it's no longer a nation of people. The people who worship you are across the entire planet who all worship you. Super Saiyan 3 straight to Super Saiyan Blue. That is essentially how worship in the MCU works for the gods. It is essentially their fuel. The more worshippers they have, the more sacrifices that they have, the more. And when I say sacrifice, I'm talking about something along the lines of, let's say, sacrificing a goat or sacrificing a person. Or if you want to keep it super PG, taking in the blood of Christ at communion. Like, these are the types of things that you would do in worship that would empower a god inside of the MCU. So when they say that humanity essentially abandoned them, what they essentially mean is humanity forgot them. There was a point in time where the people of Egypt worshiped them. Now, in today's day and age, their religion, their godhood, is no longer worshipped in that country that they were founded in. They've more or less been forgotten, and they are now being replaced, or have been replaced, by more conventional religions like Christianity and Islam in that region, and people don't worship them as much as they did before. This is dope as shit. I absolutely love it. I love the fact that, like, Marvel is finally starting to pull the curtain back to the more crazy, wild, and dope-ass concepts that exist inside of Marvel Comics as a whole across the board. But yeah, if you were wondering what that guy meant when he said that humanity essentially abandoned us, that is what he means. He means that humanity, as those who lived in the region that the gods originated from, they've moved beyond worshiping those gods, the Egyptian pantheon, and they've moved on to worshiping other gods or not worshiping any gods at all. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Like I said, this whole god thing is, oh, I knocked it down, I knocked it down, I knocked it down. Technical difficulties, people. But yeah, I'm not editing that out. That's the that's basically the whole pantheon thing. I am holding this up with like one hand right now, sitting at a super weird angle. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.